Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Absolutely anything you wish to discuss this afternoon. If you've got any further thoughts or memories of the Queen, please feel free to share them with us. And by the way, I thought that the Ottawa Sun in particular did a wonderful job covering the death of the Queen. They've gone to great lengths. I would say that there's got to be, John, I don't know if you saw it this morning, but at least 10 pages in the Sun devoted to the Queen and the royal family, et cetera, et cetera. Very interesting, very well done, very respectful. And in that regard, I must say that Charles has never been one of my favorite people, a sentiment I think shared by a good many of you. But I've got to say that his address this morning was very impressive. He promised to devote his full time and energy towards his duties as king. He said that he would follow in his mother's footsteps when it came to duty. I thought his comments, by the way, concerning the Queen as mother were very poignant, very appropriate. Charles he may represent the monarchy in better fashion than I think that many of us had feared. I hope so. If you have any comments, especially if you heard his address, if you've got any comments, agree or disagree, I was quite impressed, and I think that most people who heard and saw him would be impressed as well. Certainly off on the right foot. So if you've got any thoughts on that, folks, John, just go through once again how people get in touch with us.
Well, primarily, we would love to invite you to a conversation on the phone. 613-413-2217. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, you can post your comments wherever you would ordinarily do that, and the number is on your screen, of course, 613-413-2217.
On another topic, the show must go on. Back to regular business, all right? Montreal has grounded all 42 of its electric buses.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, because there are reports of batteries catching on fire, dangerous fires, in electric buses in a number of cities around the world. So Montreal, while saying or trying to calm the fears, saying, well, they don't think there's any danger there, nonetheless, they have grounded all of their buses while they test them out, I guess, and have some further research. Now, I've got to tell you, I know that some of you are sick of me hearing me say this, but I'm one of the few who warned this city of the pitfalls which lay ahead with light rail. I think similar warnings about the purchasing of dozens of very costly electric buses are very appropriate. I think this is a big mistake. I think we're rushing into this. I know that angels fear in where others fear to tread, but I don't think there are any angels here. There's still a lot of pitfalls that we don't know about, not just with electric buses, but with electric cars as well. Not the least of which, when we electrify our, all electrify our cars, where's all the electricity going to come from? And is it really an improvement for the environment if, in fact, we have to burn, if we have to burn natural gas, etc., in order to create the electricity? Is that really an advantage? I think there are a lot of unanswered questions. Not the least of which is, will these buses perform in an Ottawa winter? John, I think you agree with me that to me, it would make far more sense if we really are gung-ho, we've got to have these electric buses. Buy one.
Yep.
and see if they work. See how they go. Because I'm going to tell you, we tried a bunch of hybrid buses, and it was a disaster. It cost us millions and millions of dollars. There's something like 40 or 50 of these unused hybrid buses sitting somewhere in a parking lot.
Right.
We can't use them. There were a lot of problems with some of the other buses that we got without testing them. So I don't understand why we've got. Well, I do. I understand why. The whole climate business industry, it's become a religion with many people.
You're right.
And no matter what the facts are, no matter what the evidence, you aren't going to dissuade people that electric buses, electric cars, getting rid of emissions is not the second coming. For them, getting our emissions down is the second coming. All right. I'm not trying to be sacrilegious here, but this has become a religion. And sometimes with religion, common sense flies out the door. And I think that's what's happening here. I've said this before. I mean, not only have we got the problem with electric buses catching fire, we don't know if they're going to be able to run in the winter. They're twice as expensive as diesel buses. They don't carry any more passengers. They don't improve the routes. They don't improve the service in any way. They're quiet. About the only improvement is they're quiet. And of course, they don't have any diesel fumes. But I don't think too many people are really affected by diesel bus fumes. But folks, it just seems to me that we have many other problems in this city that require our time, our energy, and our money. I mean, we still have all kinds of people. It's a disaster sleeping on our streets. Hey, you go down into the market. I mean, sometimes, like, I'm going to tell you that tourists coming here. My daughter came in from Virginia in the summer, and they went down to them. She was absolutely shocked. I'm sorry, but with some rare now on the West Coast, I grant you, a lot of people sleeping on the streets of San Francisco, but in most American cities, they don't see it like we do here. So what I'm saying is we got people sleeping on the streets. We got more and more people in Ottawa and everywhere having to go to the food bank because the cost of living is just right out of sight. So what are we concentrating on? Lowering emissions. Healthcare, I mean, emergency ward, at the one of our hospitals, the Queensway Carleton, the notice was up. Wait time in the emergency ward, this was last week, 6 hours. Just before that's minimum wait time, 6 hours. And actually, and a lot of people wait longer than that. I've talked to people who have waited 8 and 10 hours.
Oh, sure.
So it just seems to me that we've got a lot of problems to solve here, and that this whole business of climate change, getting our emissions, if I've said this before, if we were really, 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 really serious about tackling climate change, we would go where the problem is, China, and to a degree, India. We would go to China and say, listen, instead of us spending billions here trying to get our emissions down when they amount to almost nothing, we're going to help you. We will help you convert from coal, which is the big problem, to natural gas, and we'll supply you with the gas, be good business for us, et cetera, et cetera. But do we do that? No. I mean, we're not the problem here, but we're spending billions and billions when they're all, it would be nice if we had all sorts of hospital space, no shortage of doctors, no shortage of nurses, nobody sleeping on the streets, all sorts of help for mental illness, et cetera, then it would be fine. I would applaud. Let's buy some electric buses. Let's whatever okay? But it seems to me that there's other problems to solve first. And I must say that in that regard, I'm disappointed in Mark Sutcliffe. I see one of his promises is that he's going to go gung-ho on electric buses and trying to appease the woke crowd. I don't know if you have to appease the woke crowd to get elected in this city. But it's whatever it is. I mean, we've got Bob Chiarelli, former energy minister, helped bring in $8 to $10 billion of windmills and solar panels in this city. We've got a woman out there who describes herself as trans bipolar. That's fine. But she wants to provide free bus. She doesn't want to charge people to get on buses.
Point of note, also does not want to be identified as a woman or a she.
Yeah, that okay.
Catherine prefers they. No, I just want
to understand that. But for me, I mean,
No, I get it.
Is she saying we got to get, before we start giving people free bus rides, we should get them off the streets? No, no. Oh no, free bus rides. At least
Correct.
Mark's opposed to that. So well, what I'm saying is that of the three, it appears to me that we're going to have a very, very left wing administration at City Hall. But of course, there's not much new with that. If you got any thoughts on that, folks, we would love to hear from you. And on the third topic, all right. So now it's official. Yep, our hero Justin Trudeau is going to continue as Liberal leader. Hooray, hooray! And is going to lead the Liberal Party into the next federal election. There were rumors, of course, he was going to step aside, that Chrystia Freeland was going to take over. That's all been squashed 2 days ago, actually, in his caucus meeting out in Vancouver, to which, dozens of people flew out. Anyway, let's not get into that. But so he said, no, I'm going to continue as leader. So, folks, what we're going to have here is we're going to have Pierre Poilievre, Lowell Green, and John Milkey, to a degree, I guess, versus, well, I'll leave that up to you, but it's going to be Pierre Poilievre and Lowell Green versus Trudeau, the bribed media, the unions, the NDP, Mad Max Bernier, and the woke crowd. That's what it's going to be in the next election. What a hell of a mountain to climb. Oh boy, your thoughts. I don't know. Pierre is a great guy. He's getting huge crowds, but whether he can, there's no question in my mind that he could beat Trudeau. But it's going to be tough. I mean, when I use the word bribe, I'm not saying that all media is bribed. I don't see the Sun being bribed. But I mean, let's face it. CBC, $1.2 billion. You don't think that's a bribe? 600 million out to the Toronto Star and et cetera, et cetera. You don't, the Globe and Mail, you don't think that's a bribe? Even local newspapers, weekly newspapers have received money from this government. So we have a bribed media for the most part. The unions are always opposed to conservatives. The NDP, as we know, we've got a kiss-ass leader of the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, and his $10,000 suits and $40,000 watches, standing up for the little guy. Mad Max Bernier going to drain off 4 or 5%. Thank you very much, Max. And the woke crowd that want us to have no emissions whatsoever. They want to go back to the Stone Age, okay? Stone axes for you. You ever try to cut a tree down with a stone axe? I've cut it down with an ordinary axe, and I'm going to tell you, cutting a tree down with an ordinary axe is a tough job. Cutting them down with a stone axe, I think, might be very difficult, particularly for some of the woke crowd. So if you got any thoughts on that, and by the way, what does another 7 years of Justin Trudeau and the gang, how does that strike you? Because that's probably what's going to happen. We got another 3 years of this term and another 4 years if he beats Poilievre. Beautiful, beautiful. 7 more years with the Liberals. Got to write a song about that. Oh, 7 long years with the wrong party. What's on your mind?
I hear your wife laughing in the background.
You know what? You might as well laugh as cry. I mean, by the way, the unemployment, another 40,000 people lost their job. I don't know what the hell's going on here. But I mean, if you shut down most of the industry, I guess, you lose jobs, right? John, what sort of reaction are we getting here?
Let's dive right in. Karen, your comment jumped out at me first. Here we go on Facebook. Another 7 years. Oh, no. Can it get any worse?
Oh, yes. Oh, can it get worse? Oh, just hang on to your panties. Believe me. Hang on, because it'll get worse. That's for sure. You think it's going to get better with this guy? Go ahead.
Sorry, that was Chrissy's comment. Karen's comment is as follows. What did Stephen Harper give the media? They're all
not a damn thing. Don't start that bullshit. Harper never gave the media anything. See, this is the kind of crapola that comes from the woke crowd, okay? They don't mind lying, the Liberals, et cetera, et cetera. Stephen Harper never gave them anything. Go ahead.
Dominic says people are smarter now with online platforms, and with this inflation hitting everyone hard and people are losing their homes, higher cost of fuel, groceries is directly caused by Trudeau printing of money. Just wait until Pierre Poilievre gets in as opposition. Let's go to the beginning, the very top of the list. Craig says, I heard part of the King's address and I agree. His performance was admirable. Let's hope he keeps it up. Chrissy says, nice to see that Lisa Laflamme will be covering the Queen's funeral. That's big news
there's a little shot at CTV, right?
You think?
Yeah, City News, that's Rogers. It's good. I have no idea what they're paying her, but yeah. And you know what? Lisa Laflamme will do a great job.
She absolutely will. She's exactly the person you think of for those moments. Yeah,
precisely.
And I'm shocked, just broadcast person to broadcast person. I'm shocked to find out that she doesn't have a no compete clause in place. So she must be pushing back hard on whatever settlement was put in front of her. Oh, to be a fly in the wall. All right, Chrissy says, sorry, we read that already. Sonia says, it was a very moving tribute to his mama. I had tears. Conservative leadership will vote will go ahead Saturday, says Peter. It will be scaled back. All right, Mike says.
Yeah, this is, see, what, I mean, even the fates, even God conspires against the Conservatives. I'm being a little facetious here, I grant you, but you're right. The Conservatives, they're going to anoint the new leader Saturday night. It'll be Pierre, no question. And they were going to have a big splash, the big room rented and all the rest of it.
Right.
But no, I mean, out of respect for the Queen, they've got to scale this all back.
Of course.
So it's just some bad luck. Go ahead.
Mike, I was about to read your comment. Here we go. I, too, really enjoyed King Charles III's speech. I think he'll make a great king. Laurentian View Terry, I remember on Christmas Day when the Queen's message started on TV, all of us kids had to be very quiet while all the adults listened. After it was over, everything was back to normal.
That distinct voice with the British accent. I mean, it still rings in my ear, no question.
Comforting, right?
Right. I must tell you that I think in later life she became a little bit more, what's the word, humane? I don't know if humane is the right word, but a little bit more sort of down to earth, appearing with James Bond, for example.
Right.
And there was a couple of incidents with that I thought were really, really were sort of quite different. So I think that she mellowed. I guess mellowed is the word. She mellowed, I think, a little bit in her older age. Go ahead.
Most people in their older age do, Lowell. You, however, are the exception.
Not me, baby. I'm not mellowing.
I know. Mike says, if those buses are anything like the LRT, it will turn into a clown show. And Kathy's in to say, is it true that Catherine McKinney from the city of Ottawa wants to spend $350 million on more bike lanes?
Oh, yes. More bike lanes. No, I don't. Yeah, bike lanes and free travel. Oh, God, I don't know. Free scooters. I don't know, free roller skates. I have no idea. But I mean, let's face it, if you're out on the far left, money is not a problem. Okay. If you're an NDP or even further left to that, money's no problem. We'll just tax the rich, the rich people, we'll get them. We'll make them pay for it all. Go ahead.
Craig says the Liberals are dancing in the streets, knowing full well the Conservative celebration will hardly even make the news. Over to Facebook, and Bonnie says, not a fan of King Charles III, but loved Queen Elizabeth, his mom. He spoke very well this morning. There is hope. The world could be a bit more peaceful if all countries could control their mouths and try to make the world a better place, as she tried to do.
Yeah, we might start with Putin. Go ahead. Control their mouth and their weapons. Go ahead.
We're 19 minutes in. You want to get a word in here for Shields?
Yes, absolutely, Shields.
All right, sir.
I just want to mention once again that Shields is now a registered Sony dealership. So whatever and John, you have much more idea of what Sony makes than I do, but whatever Sony
TV,
makes,
stereos, video cameras, DSLR cameras, speakers.
Got it all now at Shields in Pakenham. And as just the same as with appliances, it's in stock, which means it can be in your house very, very quickly. They've been in business since 1947. We're talking about tradition, talking about heritage, and Shields is one of those, I think, heritage businesses. Since 1947, the same business and the same family in the same location. Wonderful deals, very good finance plans. I just checked up a little bit more. Finance plans are very good there. I know these days money can be very tight, and they understand that at Shields. So there's some very good finance plans there. At least give them, all I've ever said is, hey, at least give them a chance. Don't just blindly go, oh, well, I'm going to go with bad boy and all that. Don't send your money off to China or the United States. Don't even send it to Toronto. Spend it here in the Valley. Go ahead, John, please.
Send your money to Pakenham. Lowell
Send
Green.
your money to Pakenham.
All right. This climate change race is clouding the judgment of our elected officials, says Ann. I agree with you, Ann. I think green energy is the way to go, but I think we need to take baby steps. It's a nice to have at this point. On our list of priorities, as Lowell described, I agree with you, Lowell. It's a nice to have. Charles has had 73 years of training for this new role. With all that training, how could he possibly let us down? Chrissy says, and the wheel's breaking down on the LRT, but hey, it hasn't broke down in a while, and it may actually be a good sign. All right, Coraline says, climate change is a lucrative business. Al Gore went from being worth $1.5 million when he left politics to being worth $340 million now.
You know, one of the things that, yeah, that's very true. He has become the first climate change billionaire. One of the things that always kind of interests me and puzzles me is guys like Al Gore and our own friend, what's his name out there in the West Coast? Suzuki, David Suzuki.
Thank you. Yes.
All these guys, they're all telling us about the oceans are going to flood. I mean, by this time, Miami is supposed to be under 412 feet of water. New York is supposed to be totally inundated. Even the top of the Empire State is supposed to be covered with water, according to Al Gore and David Suzuki, et cetera, et cetera. None of this has happened, of course. But these guys who tell us that the oceans are going to flood and destroy much of humanity, they buy these castles, these big expensive homes, where? On the ocean front.
Yeah.
Found that very interesting. Go ahead, please, John.
All right, we've got a comment in from Joseph Benami. Joseph is a candidate. I should preface this. He is a candidate in the Knoxdale ward for the upcoming election. He says, here are two questions candidates for public office should be asked. Do you heat your home with gas or electricity? Do you drive a gasoline-powered car or an electric car? They all believe in banning the use of natural gas in favor of electricity, but none will do it unless they can get somebody else, i.e. the taxpayers, to pay for it. There's a word for this. I let your listeners and viewers decide what that word is for themselves.
Yeah, he's got some very good points out there. There's no question about it. I mean, here is Trudeau, king of the climate change. You know, he's sort of the high priestess, or priest, I guess. Not a priestess, is he? He's a priest of the climate change. And so what does he do? He sets record number of flights. And so instead of having the caucus meeting of his cabinet and so forth here in Ottawa, where they are all, oh no, he's going to have it out in Vancouver. So they all got to jump aboard airplanes and go. And then he lectures us about climate change. It's the hypocrisy is just unbelievable. And you know what's also unbelievable is that so many people buy it. We've still got over 30% of the population think that Justin Trudeau is the greatest thing since sliced cheese. Or is it sliced bread? Whatever, slice something. Go ahead.
Joshua says, remember when Trudeau told the Queen he was the 12th Prime Minister during her reign, and she replied, thank you, Prime Minister, for making me feel so old. Rapier wit, she said.
You're right. That's very good, yes.
Craig has an answer for Joseph. The word you're looking for suggests, Craig, is bullshit. We've used that word often here on this show. Lawrence, go ahead.
No,
okay.
I can't add to that.
Laurentian Terry says, with all this reckless spending on everything to combat climate change, it makes you think the whole thing is a big racket. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I have to go back. I know people get sick of this, but hey, look, the country produces 1.6% of all the CO2 emissions in the world. And our forests and lakes and streams and grasslands probably suck up far more than that. But when it comes to now just going green, we are the leading. It is if we were the major problem. We aren't the problem. We're not attacking. China is the problem. But do we go at them? No. Go ahead.
We're going to lead by example, Lowell. We're going to lead by example.
But the example would be to go where the real problem is. You know, the people who want to solve a problem address the problem.
Yep.
They don't if you have a broken hose, you don't go out and fix, the street light. You fix the broken hose. Well, the broken hose is the fact that most of the generation in China is coal-fired. We have natural gas, which could supplant coal-fired, as it's done in Ontario, but we won't supply them with natural gas. I won't go into that, but we don't even, anyhow, go ahead. I've pounded on this so long, I'm sick of it myself.
We got a pile of comments to get to, but just a quick note to the listener, to the viewer. Thank you for sharing this if and when you can. I understand there's a lot of reasons why some people can't or are uncomfortable to do so. Thank you. We appreciate those who can. And if you ever miss an episode, youtube.com/blasttheradio. You can watch the Lowell Green Show on demand, and it's also available in podcast. You can even ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. There you go. All right, back to your comments. Are you kidding me, Lowell? This city is full of woke liberals and NDP. Dominic says, fantastic. Let him run, as Pierre Poilievre will have him for breakfast, as Trudeau's days are numbered.
Well,
exclamation
you know what?
Too.
Not that simple, folks. I repeat. It's not as if Poilievre was just up against Trudeau and the Liberals. He's up against a largely bribed media, the NDP, the woke crowd, the unions, and Max Bernier. Go ahead.
It's one hell of a mountain, isn't it?
It's a big mountain.
So what's the solution? What do we do?
Well, we try to get the message out as best we can. We take part, and for sure, we turn out to vote. Go ahead.
Corleen says, Canada produces emissions less than Germany and all their useless green energy. All right. Craig says, if JT was to step aside, who would replace him? They all recognize Pierre Poilievre would crush them in the next election. Do you think they do?
I think they really, let's face it, the brand, Trudeau is the Liberal brand. There's no question about it.
Yep.
And I think most Liberals know that's why the Liberals will allow him to do virtually anything. But as I say, it's not as if it was just Trudeau that Poilievre will be up against. If you're up, if you're up against essentially the bribed media, and the media is so biased in so many ways, it's not only the news that they print, it's the news that they do not print that sometimes is even more harmful.
Bingo.
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Bingo. Thank you for saying that. Anne says, time to get out of Dodge with a 70-cent Canadian dollar. Email from Paul. The address here is lowell@blasttheradio.com. Paul in Canada says, regarding our efforts to go green, I just feel that we do not have a healthy discussion of these projects. It all seems to me, all levels of government shut down any discussion. We're in a climate emergency and we have to act now. We hear this repeatedly, he says. In other words, the discussion is shut down. Where is the open discussion about going green plan as a whole? Power generation, where to focus our efforts to have the biggest effect for the least money while not ruining our economy upside down, or turning our economy upside down. I apologize. For one of our biggest projects in this country's history, we sure have very little open discussion about this.
The goal in Ottawa apparently is to go to zero emissions. I don't know how we could possibly do that. We would have to essentially go back to a Stone Age kind of existence. But that's the goal. And that's the master plan. We've talked about this before. The master plan is to bring Ottawa to zero emissions by 2050, but largely on the way within about the next 10 years. But so what? What would that accomplish? We only produce 1.6% of the entire country, 1.6%. So if Ottawa goes to zero emissions, what does that do? Bring us down to 1.45%? It's ludicrous. Go ahead.
It's a drop in a bucket that's already filled with nothing other than
a grain of sand on a giant Bahamian beach.
There you go. The Liberals have decided they want to be the first to net zero emissions, says Anne. Yeah, but why? Is there a sticker they get to put on the report card at the end of the day for this? I don't understand this fascination with it. I agree it's the way to go, but for me, it's a nice to have. Lowell, that seems to be it for comments on this Friday, sir.
Really? Okay, well, nobody wants me anymore, so we'll just say goodbye.
That's not what I said.
Thank you all. We'll be back come Monday if you still want me around. Bye-bye.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.